Welcome to part 20 of Jonbènet Ramsey Sketchy Details. All of my videos are for educational purposes and none of them are for children. So we are finally going to talk about the producer that is tied to her death. Her death and a producer's death are tied together. That's going to be number 81. And now there's kind of a lot to explaining how they're connected, so I've actually struggled for a while now with how I'm going to really go about doing so, and I'm still honestly not quite sure. And this might take up the entire video, but I guess I'll just go about it like this. So in 1999, a mere 4 days after a mandatory Warner Brothers studio executive's pre-screening of a certain movie, the director of that movie was found dead. Can anyone guess what movie that is or what director I'm referring to? I'll give you a little hint. The movie I'm talking about is technically a Christmas movie, if that helps at all. Though many people forget that it is technically a Christmas movie. I'm talking about Eyes Wide Shut. Yep. Ever heard of it? Ever seen it? And yes, I'm talking about Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick's death is related to what he revealed in Eyes Wide Shut. And now I'm just going to assume that everyone has either seen it or hasn't seen it with the intention of never seeing it. So I feel that it's redundant to give a spoiler alert, but here it is. Okay, spoiler alerts up the wazoo coming ahead for Eyes Wide Shut. Now, there's two stories being told in Eyes Wide Shut. Let's take a look at the two stories being told. There's the forefront story, which is the Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise story. And then there is the hidden plot that is hidden underneath the Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman movie. Now, let's take the movie for face value. But let's take all the glitz and glamour and gold out of it, okay? So let's take all the hotshot name actors out, and we'll just look at it for what he's presenting to us, okay? That'll help us see this second story. So what does Kubrick give us? He gives us a wealthy couple, a very wealthy couple, in fact, by showing us that the main character, male, is a doctor. Now, the doctor thinks that he's a bit wealthier and more powerful than he really is, and we are shown this by Tom Cruise's character flashing his business card or his doctorate in expectations of getting some sort of special privilege only to be laughed at, showing that there are people above him that are more wealthy and more powerful. And we are shown that when we go to Ziegler's party. In the scene where Nicole asks Tom, "Do you know anybody here?" he responds, "No." He only knows them because he is a on-call doctor, meaning he makes house visits. The elite love doctors who make house visits for very specific reasons. I'll go into that in a little bit, but that's key in this explanation, if you will. We're also shown, so we're shown the elites. We're also shown in that scene the elite Christmas parties, at least the surface elite Christmas parties. And even within the elites, we are shown that there is a divide by showing that nefarious activities go on upstairs at the party and that not everyone is invited upstairs. We are shown this in two different cases. We're shown this when the man tries to get Nicole to go upstairs and have an affair with him, and she denies that, but it shows that goes on upstairs. And then the main one we are shown is when Tom Cruise is summoned upstairs because there is a woman upstairs who is ODing on drugs, okay? This woman is also a prostitute and a beauty queen. So technically, they call 911. They called a doctor to go save this woman's life. Now, who called Tom Cruise upstairs is Ziegler. And this is directly after Tom was just introduced to Ziegler and Ziegler's wife. So it shows that Ziegler isn't this picture-perfect image of a wealthy guy because he has literally a prostitute upstairs who's ODing. And we're given that this is all kept secret from everybody by Ziegler telling Cruise, and I suspect I shouldn't have to tell you that this is strictly between us, right? Almost sort of bribing, if not, dare I say, blackmailing. And then Kubrick shows us that there are these sex ritual Christmas parties that happen that are super exclusive and invite only. We're shown this by the piano man getting the passcode to enter and also being blindfolded the entire time he's there. And then plus we're shown this by Tom Cruise entering uninvited and getting caught. But at this sex ritual, a woman participating in the ritual elects herself to take Tom Cruise's place in his punishment for when he's caught. He's set free, and then the woman is punished. We don't see this, but that's what we get under the impression, right? Well, the very next day, Tom reads in the newspaper that a beauty queen has OD'd on drugs. This is the same beauty queen that he saved earlier the day before at Ziegler's party. So the OD'd escort, who's a beauty queen, also participates in these sex rituals. Not only that, but he's showing us in this whole thing right now about why there was the 911 call 3 days before Jonbènet actually died. Because they were doing a ritual or something, and she almost died. And somebody panicked and called 911. But what do you want to bet? Dr. Boyf, or who the hell ever that guy is, her pediatrician, came over and saved her. Therefore, he shows us that the first 911 call was during some sort of like pre-game Christmas party ritual, and that she died during the big mass ritual 2 or 3 days later. So does this all sound like I'm really reaching and sound like a far stretch for you? Well, unless you're rather familiar with Stanley's producing style and his way of telling stories that aren't always what meets the eye, and also familiar with some symbology, then you might not catch on to this. But these next ones might be a little more obvious to you. So, what other things does Stanley show us or reveal to us in Eyes Wide Shut? Well, he shows us pedophilia. We see this when Tom Cruise is at the costume shop the first time, and the costume shop's owner's daughter is caught with 2 older Chinese males, and the father acts surprised and angry. And he even locks the 2 Chinese men in a room, and you get under the impression that he's going to either call the police or kick their ass, right? And in this same scene, we are shown the rainbow symbology. We've already talked all about the rainbow symbology. And in the same scene, we are showed a checkered mannequin who's dressed in a gesture outfit. Now, with the same people, not the same scene, but the next time Tom goes, when he goes to return the costume, we are shown that the previously angry father is now pimping out his daughter to those same Chinese men. So we're being shown parents pimping out their children to pedophiles under some sort of rainbow symbology. We are shown that this wealthy couple has a daughter, and we're only shown her in just like not even a handful of scenes, like 2 or 3. And this is to reinforce that the parents are too wrapped up in their own lives to really have complete knowledge of what their daughter's doing or where she's at. We're actually only shown their daughter in 3 scenes. One scene is her being groomed with her mother. The next scene is her being babysat by somebody else. And then the other scene is her standing next to pink Barbie dolls very briefly. And they're shown standing side by side, like it was lying next to her. Stanley really drills home the Christmas theme of the movie by putting a Christmas tree in damn near every single scene. The only scenes that do not have Christmas lights or decorations are the sex ritual scenes, showing that it's not any sort of festive holiday environment that we are aware of. But in almost every building, every room, and every shot, there is a Christmas tree. Now, in the scene where it's at the end and they're in the toy store, in almost every frame of that entire scene, Stanley made sure that visible in the background of that scene is a sign that says stairs to all floors, meaning the stairs lead to all of the floors of this shopping mall. He's referencing how both staircases at the Ramseys led to all 3 floors of the house. And he's referencing how this house had Christmas trees in every single room. Stanley didn't like to just come out and say stuff. He liked you to actually have to think about it for a little bit and figure it out yourself, but he didn't want it to be impossible, so he would leave little tiny clues. He's telling us in Eyes Wide Shut that JonBènet died during some sort of occultish ritual, sexual Christmas ritual, and that's when she died. That's what he's trying to portray to us, that it is that is organized and dealing with the elite and the occult. Want some more sketchy connections? Don't worry, I've got a couple for you. So let's go back to the newspaper article from the movie, and I want you to pay attention to this paragraph here, and it says, blah, 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 blah. We would like to talk to these 2 men to see what they can tell us about her final hours. Now, if you've been a good student, you'll remember us talking a few different times about this 2 men theory. I do think that that is Stanley kind of making this into yet another clue. That's what he's trying to tell us. The other sketchy clue, you'll notice that it says that this article was written by Larry Silona. Now, Larry Silona is a real journalist who Stanley hired to work with him on this film to create 2 different fake articles for this movie, this being one of the fake articles. Well, let's take a little look at one of Larry's real life articles. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, huh? And what do you know? Larry Silona is also the man who broke the story of Jeffrey Epstein's apparent suicide. So the guy that's in a movie that writes a fake article about a fake suicide writes a real article about fake suicide. Larry Silona has actually broke a bunch of stories, which makes me think that that is misinformation, what he writes, and that this Jeffrey Epstein obviously did not kill himself. Last weird little connection is with Nicole Kidman and this case. Kind of this case. So Nicole Kidman's father is Anthony Kidman. He is a psychologist in Australia, a very well-renowned psychologist. In 1977, he established a foundation for life sciences, a non-profit organization focused on youth mental illness. He was highly trained in cognitive behavioral therapy, and he was the lead clinical psychologist at the health psychology unit at the University of Technology, which I think is kind of weird. Like, there's mental health stuff at a technology university, but I get it. Like, they use technology to, further their studies, so I get it, whatever. He died on September 14th in 2014 in Singapore. Now, there was some speculation behind his death because originally it was documented as an unnatural death, and then they said that he fell, and then they said that he had a heart attack, so it's kind of weird. But he had just left Australia to go to Singapore because he was running from sexual abuse allegations on children. So that's that connection, which is really freaking weird. I'm going to put up some screenshots, and you guys can just pause them so you can read them, because I don't really want to have to say this crap on Christmas. So I'll put them up, you guys can pause them, and then read them yourselves. But this is the end of part 20, and I want to thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe, and Merry Christmas! Evil on this scale is impossible to comprehend. To know who murdered JonBènet Ramsey would be to know what world we live in, where we are.